This helped. The guards remained vigilant, but their formation relaxed into something less geometric and more human. An impressive achievement, considering most of them were neither. One of them even nodded to Tobias one morning, an acknowledgement that felt like a medal. "You're still alive," Tobias said. The guard blinked. "So are you." "Mutual success," Tobias replied. Syveth, for her part, appeared unchanged to the casual observer. She held counsel, issued decrees, negotiated trade routes across star systems that Tobias couldn't pronounce. But when she walked now, her pace was different, less measured, more her own. They met often, still under the banner of consultation, though the projects grew increasingly abstract. Tobias was asked to advise on spatial flow in audience chambers, on the psychological effects of vertical hierarchy, on whether a ruler truly needed to be elevated to be respected. "Gravity is persuasive," Tobias said, "but it's not everything." Syveth considered this. "You are very free with your opinions for someone whose first contribution was falling over. I like to establish expectations early." Their conversations wandered, touching on culture and physics and the strange loneliness of leadership. Humor threaded through it all, easing the weight of things they did not yet have language for. One afternoon, in a chamber recently redesigned with softer light and fewer reflective surfaces, Syveth stopped walking. "You may stand closer," she said. Tobias hesitated. Old instincts flared. Then he stepped forward. Nothing protested. He stopped a respectful distance away, heart racing. "This feels illegal." "It is newly permitted," she said, "on a trial basis." "Everything important is," he said. She studied him for a moment, then extended her hand. Not a command, an invitation. Tobias took it carefully, aware of every eye in the room, every protocol straining. Her hand was warm, solid, undeniably real. Syveth exhaled, long and slow. Her long ears relaxed, no longer held in ceremonial tension. "There," she said quietly, "that is better." The guards did not move. The citadel did not alarm. The universe, disappointingly, did not explode. Tobias smiled. "Congratulations. You've officially ruined isolation." She smiled back. "You helped." In the days that followed, news spread. Not scandalous news, not rebellion, but stories. Of a queen who laughed. Of a ruler who stood among her people without losing authority. Of a human engineer who tripped into history and refused to apologize for gravity. Tobias's contract ended, as contracts do. A transport waited to take him home, engines humming with impatience. Syveth walked with him to the docking bay, unaccompanied save for a single guard who pretended very hard not to exist. "You could stay," she said. "I know," Tobias replied, "but I think I was meant to start something, not become it." She nodded, understanding. "You have changed my world," he shrugged. "You changed mine first. I used to think problems were solved by fixing systems. And now? Now I think some systems need to be hugged." That earned him one last laugh, bright and unguarded. Before he boarded, Syveth stepped closer than protocol would have once allowed. She embraced him, brief, deliberate, unmistakably intentional. No alarm sounded. Tobias held on just long enough to return it, then stepped back, eyes stinging. "Be careful," she said. "I always am," he replied. Eventually, as the transport pulled away, Tobias watched the citadel recede, no longer a monument to distance, but a living place, flawed, evolving, alive. For the first time in years, Queen Syveth stood alone without feeling lonely. And for the first time in his life, Tobias knew that falling, sometimes, was the beginning of flight. "Hey!" She closed the door behind her, her expression calm but focused, ears upright in a way that made Ryan suddenly very aware that something was happening, and he had absolutely no idea what it was. "You invited me," she said. Ryan laughed reflexively, the way people do when they assume a joke is happening somewhere nearby. "I did?" "Yes." His smile faltered. "I think I'd remember that." She took a step closer. "You said goodnight." Ryan's brain stalled, gears grinding. "Yeah, because it was night. And good." Silence settled between them, thick and charged in a way that felt entirely disproportionate to the words in question. Syveth's ears lowered just a fraction. Then, she said carefully, there has been a significant error in translation. Ryan's stomach dropped. Oh no, he whispered. Ryan stared at Syveth as if she had just informed him that gravity was optional on Tuesdays. A significant error, he repeated slowly, buying time the way humans always did when their brains were sprinting in place. Okay, that's fine. Errors happen. We literally fix those for a living. Syveth nodded once gravely. Yes, this one appears to involve you. That tracks, Ryan muttered. She took another step into the room, glancing around with open curiosity. His quarters were modest even by station standards. A narrow sleeping platform built into the wall, a small desk cluttered with translation notes, a viewport showing a sliver of stars, and a chair that had clearly lost a long and bitter war with its own padding. You did not prepare your resting space, she observed. Ryan followed her gaze and felt a wave of panic crest and break. Because I wasn't expecting company, or visitors, or cultural revelations. Her brow furrowed. But you invited me. No, see, that's the part we're circling back to, Ryan said, holding up both hands in what he hoped was a universally calming gesture. When I said good night, I meant, the workday has concluded, and I will now enter unconsciousness alone. Syveth blinked. Once, then again. Her ears twitched, the tips angling outward in a gesture Ryan had learned meant confusion layered with concern. You announced solitary unconsciousness? Ryan considered this. When you put it like that, it sounds way more dramatic than intended. In my culture, Syveth said slowly, as if assembling fragile components, a direct good night spoken privately is an expression of desired shared rest. It is intimate. Ryan's mouth opened. Closed, opened again. Oh, he said faintly. Yes. He glanced at the bed, then at her, then at the bed again, as if it might offer legal advice. Okay, so, just to be very clear, you're saying that I accidentally proposed a sleep arrangement? You did not accidentally do so, Syveth replied. You did so clearly. I swear on every outdated human idiom I know, I absolutely did not. Her ears lowered, just slightly. Ryan caught it this time, and something in his chest tightened. Then, she said, you are now refusing me. No, I'm not refusing you as a person, he said quickly, words tumbling over each other. I'm refusing the misunderstanding, which is different, I think. Silence stretched, punctuated only by the distant thrum of the station's engines. Somewhere, a maintenance drone passed by the corridor, humming cheerfully, blissfully uninvolved. In my society, Syveth said quietly, to decline such an invitation implies regret, or rejection, or dishonor. Ryan winced. Wow, we really need better warning labels on our phrases. She studied him, searching his face with an intensity that made him feel like a mistranslated footnote. You appear distressed. I am, he admitted, mostly because I think I just insulted you without meaning to, and that's kind of my worst nightmare. Her shoulders eased a fraction. Then you did not intend offense? Absolutely not. I just talk a lot. We say things without meaning them. Constantly. It's a whole problem. Syveth let out a breath, slow, measured. That is inefficient. You're telling me. She moved closer, stopping a respectful distance away. Ryan, did you feel no intent at all when you spoke? He hesitated. The truth hovered uncomfortably close. He had felt something, warmth, familiarity, the quiet comfort of her presence after long hours. But intent, he hadn't let himself think that far. I meant it kindly, he said at last. Not romantically, at least, not consciously. Her ears angled again, this time in a gesture he didn't fully recognize. Your species conceals meaning, even from itself. Another of our charming features. A flicker of something like humor passed through her expression. Then your languages are hazardous. They really are. We put warning signs on chemicals, but not on greetings. She glanced again at the bed, then back to him. If I remain, it would be because I choose to, not because you are bound by custom. Ryan's heart skipped. That feels like a very important distinction. It is, he swallowed. And if you don't remain, then I will experience disappointment, she said honestly, but I will not believe you cruel. Ryan rubbed the back of his neck. I really wish I'd known this before my mouth did whatever that was. A small sound escaped her, a soft, unfamiliar laugh. I wish you had known as well. They stood there, suspended between cultures, between exhaustion and possibility. Ryan gestured weakly toward the chair. Would you like to sit while we, continue clarifying the most dangerous sentence in human history? Syveth considered, then nodded. Yes, clarification is preferable to silence. As she sat, folding herself neatly into the chair that immediately protested, Ryan couldn't help a crooked smile. For what it's worth, he said, this is officially the strangest misunderstanding I've ever been part of. And I once accidentally agreed to officiate a wedding between two artificial intelligences. Syveth's eyes widened. You performed a bonding ritual? Long story. They're very happy. She tilted her head, ears lifting again. Then perhaps misunderstandings are not always disastrous. Ryan met her gaze, feeling the weight of that possibility settle gently between them. The chair complained loudly under Syveth's weight, emitting a tired creak that sounded suspiciously like judgment. Ryan winced. I swear it's sturdier than it sounds. It's just dramatic. Syveth remained perfectly still, as if afraid further movement might provoke it into collapse. Your furniture expresses distress verbally. Yeah, it's a design flaw. Humans like to anthropomorphize everything, including objects that resent us. She relaxed a fraction, the chair surviving her test of trust. It is acceptable, she said. I have sat on worse. Ryan chose not to ask where. He leaned against the desk, crossing his arms, trying to decide whether this moment required professionalism, honesty, or a fire alarm to reset reality. The station hummed around them, steady and indifferent, lights shifting subtly as the artificial night deepened. Somewhere far above, the station's orbital ring adjusted its alignment, a reminder that even misunderstandings happen inside enormous, precisely calibrated machines. Syveth studied the room again, more slowly this time. Your quarters are solitary. Ryan glanced around. I prefer to think of them as efficiently lonely. She considered this. Is loneliness desirable among humans? Only when we pretend it is. Her ears dipped slightly. Ryan was starting to recognize that one. You experience it often. He shrugged. Occupational hazard. Translators spend a lot of time between worlds, not quite belonging to any of them. That is similar to my work, she said. Yet my people value shared rest precisely to counter that state. Ryan exhaled. Of course you do. She met his gaze. Ryan, you are attempting humor. Is it working? Yes, marginally. He smiled. I'll take marginal. A quiet settled between them again, but this one felt different, less panicked, more thoughtful. Ryan realized he was no longer trying to find an escape route from the conversation. That in itself was alarming. Can I ask you something, he said. You may. Why didn't you say anything earlier about what good night means to you? Syveth's fingers tightened slightly on the arm of the chair. Because you never said it before. Not to me, not privately. Oh, and because, she added, your professional boundaries were very strong. Ryan laughed softly. That's one way to put it. You were careful, she said. So was I. Carefulness implies restraint. Restraint implies choice. Ryan nodded slowly. He remembered every almost moment. The times their hands had brushed over the same console, the conversations that drifted just shy of personal before snapping back to safe topics, the way she always lingered a second longer at the end of shifts. He had noticed. He just hadn't acted. I thought you weren't interested, he admitted. Her ears rose in clear surprise. You did? Yeah, you're very composed. That is not disinterest, she said. It is discipline. Ah, humans are terrible at telling those apart. She tilted her head. You mistake silence for absence. We do that a lot, he said. We fill the gaps with assumptions. Syveth absorbed this, then asked, and what did you assume? Ryan hesitated. The truth pressed against his ribs, insistent. That it was better not to risk making things awkward. Her gaze softened. And yet here we are. Spectacularly awkward, he agreed. A faint smile curved her lips. But honest. Yes, he said. Painfully so. She rose from the chair carefully, as if negotiating peace with it, and moved closer to the viewport. The stars reflected faintly along the edges of her long ears, giving them a silver outline. That feels like a very important distinction. It is, he swallowed. And if you don't remain, then I will experience disappointment, she said honestly, but I will not believe you cruel. Ryan rubbed the back of his neck. I really wish I'd known this before my mouth did whatever that was. A small sound escaped her, a soft, unfamiliar laugh. I wish you had known as well. They stood there, suspended between cultures, between exhaustion and possibility. Ryan gestured weakly toward the chair. Would you like to sit while we, continue clarifying the most dangerous sentence in human history? Syveth considered, then nodded. Yes, clarification is preferable to silence. As she sat, folding herself neatly into the chair that immediately protested, Ryan couldn't help a crooked smile. For what it's worth, he said, this is officially the strangest misunderstanding I've ever been part of, and I once accidentally agreed to officiate a wedding between two artificial intelligences. Syveth's eyes widened. You performed a bonding ritual. Long story, they're very happy. She tilted her head, ears lifting again. Then perhaps misunderstandings are not always disastrous. Ryan met her gaze, feeling the weight of that possibility settle gently between them. The chair complained loudly under Syveth's weight, emitting a tired creak that sounded suspiciously like judgment. Ryan winced. I swear it's sturdier than it sounds. It's just dramatic. Syveth remained perfectly still, as if afraid further movement might provoke it into collapse. Your furniture expresses distress verbally. Yeah, it's a design flaw. Humans like to anthropomorphize everything, including objects that resent us. She relaxed a fraction, the chair surviving her test of trust. It is acceptable, she said. I have sat on worse. Ryan chose not to ask where. He leaned against the desk, crossing his arms, trying to decide whether this moment required professionalism, honesty, or a fire alarm to reset reality. The station hummed around them, steady and indifferent, lights shifting subtly as the artificial night deepened. Somewhere far above, the station's orbital ring adjusted its alignment, a reminder that even misunderstandings happen inside enormous, precisely calibrated machines. Syveth studied the room again, more slowly this time. Your quarters are solitary. Ryan glanced around. I prefer to think of them as efficiently lonely. She considered this. Is loneliness desirable among humans? Only when we pretend it is. Her ears dipped slightly. Ryan was starting to recognize that one. You experience it often, he shrugged. Occupational hazard. Translators spend a lot of time between worlds, not quite belonging to any of them. That is similar to my work, she said. Yet my people value shared rest precisely to counter that state. Ryan exhaled. Of course you do. She met his gaze. Ryan, you are attempting humor. Is it working? Yes, marginally. He smiled. I'll take marginal. A quiet settled between them again, but this one felt different, less panicked, more thoughtful. Ryan realized he was no longer trying to find an escape route from the conversation. That, in itself, was alarming. Can I ask you something? He said. You may. Why didn't you say anything earlier about what good night means to you? Syveth's fingers tightened slightly on the arm of the chair. Because you never said it before. Not to me, not privately. Oh. And because, she added, your professional boundaries were very strong. Ryan laughed softly. That's one way to put it. You were careful, she said. So was I. Carefulness implies restraint. Restraint implies choice. Ryan nodded slowly. He remembered every almost moment, the times their hands had brushed over the same console, the conversations that drifted just shy of personal before snapping back to safe topics, the way she always lingered a second longer at the end of shifts. He had noticed. He just hadn't acted. I thought you weren't interested, he admitted. Her ears rose in clear surprise. You did? Yeah, you're very composed. That is not disinterest, she said. It is discipline. Ah, humans are terrible at telling those apart. She tilted her head. You mistake silence for absence. We do that a lot, he said. We fill the gaps with assumptions. Syveth absorbed this, then asked, and what did you assume? Ryan hesitated. The truth pressed against his ribs, insistent. That it was better not to risk making things awkward. Her gaze softened. And yet here we are. Spectacularly awkward, he agreed. A faint smile curved her lips. But honest. Yes, he said. Painfully so. She rose from the chair carefully, as if negotiating peace with it, and moved closer to the viewport. The stars reflected faintly along the edges of her long ears, giving them a silver outline. Your journals are combative. You should see the comment sections. They both relaxed a little after that, the tension easing into something more conversational. Syveth sat on the edge of the bed, testing it carefully, as if it might object like the chair had. It remained mercifully silent. This surface is acceptable, she concluded. It knows better than to argue, Ryan said. He sat as well, leaving a careful space between them. The bed adjusted subtly under their combined weight, adaptive materials redistributing pressure. Ryan wondered, not for the first time, how many species had rested here over the station's long service life, each with their own rules, meanings, and quiet moments. Ryan, Syveth said, her voice lower now, more deliberate. You asked earlier whether I wish to remain by choice. Yeah, I do. The words landed softly but firmly. He nodded, feeling a strange calm settle over him. I want that to be true because you want it, not because you think you have to. I am aware, she said. Your insistence on this distinction is reassuring. He smiled. We mess up a lot, but we try to fix it. She studied him, eyes searching, ears attentive. There is another aspect you should understand. Oh no, he said lightly. There's always another aspect. In my culture, she continued, ignoring the joke, sharing rest often precedes formal acknowledgement of attachment. It is how we explore compatibility without public commitment. Ryan exhaled slowly. Okay, that actually makes sense. It does? Yeah, we just usually do it backwards, or sideways, or not at all. She tilted her head. Your approach seems inefficient. We've covered that. A pause followed, comfortable now rather than strained. Ryan realized his heart was no longer racing. It felt steady, anchored by the quiet certainty of choice. So, he said, if we're doing this, I propose we set some ground rules. Her ears lifted slightly. I enjoy ground rules. Of course you do. First rule, no assumptions. If something means something, we say it. Agreed. Second rule, if either of us gets uncomfortable, we stop. No explanations required. Agreed. Third rule, he added, smiling, we don't let a single phrase redefine our entire relationship without a discussion. Her lips twitched. That rule seems specific. Learn the hard way. She inclined her head. Accepted. They both shifted, lying back against the pillows, not touching yet, simply sharing the space. The ceiling display dimmed further, simulating a distant nebula, drifting slowly across a fall sky. Ryan stared up at it, feeling a strange mix of awe and ordinariness. Do you miss your home system? He asked quietly. Syveth considered before answering. Sometimes, but I chose this assignment. I wish to understand humans. Well, he said, congratulations. You've now experienced our most dangerous weapon, small talk. She turned her head to look at him. It is disarming. He met her gaze, close now, the space between them no longer empty but full of shared understanding. You know, he said, this whole thing started because I didn't think about my words. And now, she replied, you are choosing them carefully. Growth, he said. It's rare, but it happens. Her hand moved slowly, deliberately, stopping just short of his. She waited. Ryan covered the distance, placing his hand over hers, feeling the warmth, the subtle difference in texture, the undeniable reality of her presence. It felt simple. Right. Outside, the station continued its endless orbit, carrying them silently through the dark, while two translators finally spoke the same language without needing a machine between them. They lay side by side, not quite touching, except where their hands met, the contact light but deliberate, as if either of them could pull away without consequence. The bed adjusted again, sensing equilibrium, its surface subtly warming to compensate for the station's nocturnal energy cycle. Ryan found it mildly unsettling that even the furniture seemed invested in their comfort. "So?" he said after a moment, staring at the drifting nebula projected above them. "This is officially the quietest diplomatic incident I've ever been involved in." Syveth's fingers flexed slightly beneath his. "It has not escalated. Yet," he added. "Give it time." She emitted a soft sound that might have been laughter. "You anticipate catastrophe even in stillness. We're very good at it." The nebula overhead shifted color, blues folding into violet. The simulation timed to mimic the station's slow rotation through a dust cloud far outside the viewport. Ryan wondered distantly who had programmed such care into a place designed primarily for efficiency. Someone, somewhere, had decided that even in deep space, people needed something gentle to look at while they tried to rest. Syveth turned onto her side, propping her head slightly on one elbow. "May I ask another question?" "Given tonight's theme, I'm terrified," Ryan said. "But yes. Do humans often reconsider their choices after making them?" He laughed quietly. "Constantly. It's practically a hobby." "And yet," she said, studying him, "you have not withdrawn your hand." Ryan looked down as if noticing it for the first time. "No," he admitted. "I haven't." She seemed satisfied with that. They settled again, shoulders nearly touching now, a shared warmth building between them that had nothing to do with the bed's climate controls. The station hummed steadily, a vast machine pretending to sleep while never truly doing so. "I should tell you something," Ryan said, her ears lifted. "You may. When you first walked into my room, my brain basically shut down. But after the panic, there was relief." She turned her head toward him. "Relief?" "Yeah, because I didn't have to wonder anymore. You made the first move, even if it was accidental." Her mouth curved faintly. "Your species prefers accidents. We prefer plausible deniability." She considered this. "And now?" "Now," he said slowly, "I'm choosing not to hide behind that." Her hand tightened slightly in response, not gripping, just acknowledging. They lay quietly for a while after that, the silence companionable rather than awkward. Ryan became aware of small details, the faint citrus metal scent of her skin, the way her breathing synchronized gradually with his, the subtle movements of her ears responding to distant sounds only she seemed to register. "What are you hearing?" he asked softly. "Life support fluctuations," she replied, "and the cargo ring adjusting its magnetic locks." He blinked. "You can hear that?" "Yes." "Well," he said, "that explains why you never jump when alarms go off." "They are rarely urgent," she said. "Your species panics preemptively." "Again, guilty." She shifted slightly closer, their shoulders brushing now. Ryan felt the contact like a quiet current, steady and grounding. He did not move away. "Ryan," she said, voice low, "are you still concerned that this began with misunderstanding?" He thought about the phrase he'd spoken without thought, the chain reaction it had set off, the honesty it had forced. "I think," he said, "that if it hadn't happened this way, we'd still be circling each other with polite footnotes." "Footnotes are exhausting," she agreed. "Exactly." She studied his face as if memorizing it in this low light. "Then perhaps error is sometimes a form of truth." "That's a very translator thing to say." "I am a very translator person," she replied solemnly. He smiled, warmth spreading through him, that had nothing to do with humor now. Outside the viewport, a maintenance drone drifted past, its lights blinking in lazy rhythm, a reminder that even the most intimate moments aboard a station were shared with machines that neither noticed nor cared. "I should warn you," Ryan said. "I talk in my sleep." Syveth's ears flicked. "You vocalize unconscious thought?" "Apparently. Last time I recited a grocery list in 3 languages." "That sounds useful. Only if you need milk at 4 in the morning." She relaxed further against the bed, clearly settling. If you speak in another language, I will inform you. Please don't translate it publicly. I make no promises. They lay there, letting the minutes stretch without urgency. Ryan felt something unfamiliar but welcome settle into his chest. Not excitement, not fear, but steadiness. The sense that this moment did not need to lead anywhere specific to be meaningful. Syveth, he said quietly. Yes. I'm glad you came in. She turned her head toward him, eyes reflecting the soft nebula light. So am I. Their hands shifted, fingers interlacing more fully now, the contact natural, unforced. No alarm sounded, no cultural taboos ignited. The universe, vast and indifferent, allowed them this small pocket of peace. As the station continued its endless journey through the dark, two translators rested side by side, not because a phrase demanded it, but because they both chose to stay. The station's night cycle deepened into its final phase, the artificial nebula overhead dissolving into a slow drift of stars as the ceiling display recalibrated. Ryan noticed the change only because Syveth did. Her ears shifted subtly, reacting to the altered hum of the systems, as if the station itself had taken a deeper breath. Something changed, he murmured. Yes, she replied. The thermal exchangers are compensating for shadow exposure. It is quieter now. Ryan smiled faintly. Of course you can hear that. It is comforting, she said. Predictable systems imply safety. Spoken like someone who's never trusted human software updates. That earned him a quiet laugh, warmer than the earlier ones, less tentative. They lay closer now, shoulders touching, the shared heat between them unremarkable and grounding. Ryan found that his thoughts were no longer racing ahead, no longer trying to anticipate outcomes or meanings. The moment had stretched into something steady, like a stable orbit. I've been meaning to ask you something, Syveth said after a while. Statistically speaking, that sentence has a 50% chance of changing my life, Ryan said. But go ahead. She turned onto her side, facing him fully now. When humans form attachments, do they always require declaration? Ryan considered this. We think we do, but in practice, most of us just drift into them and panic later. Her ears angled forward. That seems inefficient. Yes, he agreed, but familiar. She studied his face, her gaze thoughtful rather than intense. On my world, attachment is recognized by behavior before it is named. Shared rest, shared silence, mutual adjustment. Ryan exhaled. That actually sounds healthier than our approach, which is mostly denial followed by dramatic speeches. I have observed your media, she said. There is much shouting. An alarming amount. They lay quietly again, listening to the station's distant systems cycling through their routines. Ryan felt himself growing drowsy, the kind of tiredness that came not from exhaustion, but from finally allowing himself to stop thinking. Ryan, Syveth said softly, her voice cutting gently through the haze. You are slowing. High praise, he murmured. I don't do that often. She reached out, her fingers brushing his arm, tentative but unhesitating. He felt the contact like a small anchor, keeping him present. I want to understand something, she continued. Earlier you feared that you had harmed me through misunderstanding. Yeah. And now? He thought about it, about the way the night had unfolded, not into disaster, but into clarity. Now I think, if I did hurt you, it wasn't permanent. And that matters. Her fingers curled slightly, resting more firmly against him. It does. The station shifted again, a barely perceptible adjustment as it aligned with a relay array. A soft chime echoed faintly through the hall, a reminder that even in stillness, the place was alive with motion. You know, Ryan said, eyes half closed, if anyone ever asks how this started, I'm going to have to explain that it was all because I used a common phrase incorrectly. Syveth's lips curved. Your species will understand. They really won't. She laughed again, the sound quiet but genuine. Then perhaps we will keep it to ourselves. I like that idea, he said. Sleep tugged at the edges of his awareness, but he resisted it just enough to stay present. There was something intimate in this shared wakefulness, in choosing not to rush toward unconsciousness. Syveth, he said, voice low, tomorrow is going to be interesting. Yes, she agreed. You will attempt to behave normally. I will fail spectacularly. She regarded him with fond amusement. And I will observe. He smiled. Fair. Her hand moved again, this time resting against his chest, feeling the steady rhythm there. Ryan froze for half a second, then relaxed, breathing evening out beneath her touch. It felt natural, unremarkable in the best way. This, she said quietly, is acceptable. High praise, he echoed. They drifted then, not fully asleep but no longer fully awake, hovering in that gentle space between. The station carried them onward, a metal island in an endless sea, while two translators rested without the need for words. Having finally learned that understanding did not always require explanation. For once, silence translated itself. Morning arrived without ceremony, announced not by sunlight but by the station system's shifting pitch. The hum of life support climbing half a tone as if clearing its throat. Ryan woke slowly, disoriented in the gentle way that came from real rest rather than exhaustion-induced collapse. For a few seconds he didn't remember where he was, only that something was different. Then he felt the warmth beside him. Syveth lay still, eyes closed, her breathing steady and even. One ear twitched faintly, reacting to a distant mechanical sound Ryan couldn't hear. He smiled despite himself. Somewhere between midnight misunderstandings and careful negotiations, his quarters had stopped feeling lonely. He resisted the urge to move immediately, aware that any shift might wake her. Instead, he stared up at the ceiling display, now faded into a neutral glow, and took stock of the quiet certainty in his chest. Panic was gone. So was confusion. What remained felt deliberate. Eventually, Syveth stirred. Her eyes opened, focused instantly, as if sleep for her were simply another mode rather than an absence. "Good morning," she said. Ryan froze. Then he laughed, the sound bursting out of him before he could stop it. "Okay, before we go any further, we need to establish something." Her ears lifted. "I am listening. When you say, 'good morning,' does that mean I've accidentally agreed to anything?" She blinked, then let out a soft, unmistakable laugh. "No, that phrase is safe." "Excellent. I would like to keep at least one greeting hazard-free." She pushed herself upright, smoothing her hair with practiced ease. "You appear relieved." "You have no idea." They sat side by side on the bed, the station fully awake now around them. Ryan could hear footsteps in the corridor, distant voices, the ordinary rhythms of a place that never truly slept. Life continued, unbothered by personal revelations. "I should return to my quarters," Syveth said. "There will be questions otherwise." Ryan nodded. "Yeah. The station gossip network runs faster than light." "It does?" "No," he admitted. "But it feels like it." She paused, studying him. "You are different this morning." He considered that. "I think I finally understand something about myself." Her ears angled forward. "Elaborate." "I spend my life translating meaning between species," he said, "but I've been terrible at acknowledging my own. I hide behind neutrality, precision, professionalism. It's safer that way. And now? Now I know that being careful isn't the same as being honest." She regarded him quietly. "That realization has weight." "Yeah," he said. "It does." She rose, gathering her tablet. At the door she hesitated, then turned back to him. "Ryan, last night was not an error." He smiled. "Agreed." "Then," she said, "I will see you later." "Looking forward to it," he replied, and meant it without hesitation. After she left, Ryan dressed quickly, his movements lighter than usual. When he stepped into the corridor, the station felt subtly altered, not because it had changed, but because he had. The translation wing buzzed with activity when he arrived, consoles glowing, voices overlapping in a dozen languages. Syveth arrived moments later, composed as ever, though when their eyes met, something unspoken passed between them. No panic, no confusion, just acknowledgement. They worked as they always had, but differently. When questions arose, they asked them openly. When meanings were unclear, they clarified without assumption. The work flowed more smoothly than it ever had. At the end of the shift, Ryan saved the final file and stood, stretching. He looked at Syveth, choosing his words with care. Would you like to rest together again tonight? He asked. As a choice. Her ears lifted fully, unmistakably. Yes, he smiled, warmth spreading through him. Not excitement, not fear, but certainty. Then, he said, good night. And I mean exactly what that sounds like. She returned his smile. So do I. As the station continued its endless journey through the dark, Ryan realized that understanding wasn't about avoiding mistakes. It was about facing them, learning from them, and choosing meaning instead of hiding from it. For the first time in a long while, his words and his intentions finally matched.